The council chamber was silent except for the sound of crying. Not human crying, but the high-pitched wails of the Velrian people as their voices came through the speakers. Ambassador Hyojin Lee sat at the human delegation table and listened. Her hands were shaking. "Please," the voice begged, "someone help us. They're burning our cities. They're killing our children. Please, is anyone listening?" The Galactic Council members shifted in their seats. Nobody spoke. The Velrians were a peaceful race. They looked like tall, thin deer with large eyes and gentle voices. They had never hurt anyone. They grew beautiful gardens and made wonderful art. Now they were dying. Hyojin looked around the massive chamber. There were representatives from 43 different alien species. Some had wings, some had scales. Some were just clouds of gas in special containers. All of them looked away from the speakers. "We must debate this properly," said the Thorian ambassador. He was a rock-like creature who moved very slowly. "We cannot rush into military action." "The Kravik Dominion has 3,000 warships," added the Felshan representative. She was a bird-like alien with blue feathers. "No single race can stand against them." Hyojin stood up. Her chair scraped against the floor. "People are dying right now. While we sit here talking, they're dying." "Ambassador Lee," the council chairman said. His voice was tired. "We understand your concern, but humanity has only been part of the council for 43 years. You don't understand how these things work." "I understand that children are screaming for help," Hyojin said. Her voice was cold. "I understand that you're all too scared to do anything about it." The chamber erupted in angry voices. The chairman banged his gavel. "Ambassador Lee, you will sit down." Hyojin didn't sit. She pulled out her communicator and walked out of the chamber. Behind her, the Velrian voices continued to beg. Nobody was listening anymore. She went to a private room and made a call. It took 3 minutes for the connection to reach Earth. When the screen lit up, she saw Admiral Taemin Park. He was in his 50s with gray hair and tired eyes. He commanded the largest battle carrier in the human fleet. "Ambassador," he said, "I've been listening to the feeds. The council isn't going to help them, are they?" "No," Hyojin said. "They're too afraid. They've been debating for 3 days." Taemin nodded slowly. "And the Velrians? Dying. Thousands are already dead, maybe millions." There was silence on the line. Taemin looked down at something off-screen. Then he looked back up. "I'm going to need you to send me everything you have on the Kravik fleet positions. Then I'm going to call Earth Fleet Command." "Taemin," Hyojin said quietly, "the Kraviks have 3,000 ships. We have 500 in range." "I know the math," Taemin said. "Send me the data." Hyojin sent the files and closed the connection. She sat alone in the dark room and waited. On board the battle carrier Indomitable, Dr. Ji-Won Choi was working in the linguistics lab. She was trying to decode more Velrian transmissions. Most of them were just screaming now, but some had words, names, goodbye messages from parents to children who were already dead. Ji-Won had been studying alien languages for 15 years. She had learned to keep her emotions separate from her work. But this was different. These weren't just words. These were last words. Her computer beeped. A new transmission was coming through. She put on her headphones and listened. "This is Velria Central Hospital," a shaking voice said. "We have 3,000 injured here. No power, no medicine. The Kraviks are 2 blocks away. If anyone can hear this, we have children here. Please, anyone." The transmission ended. Ji-Won sat very still. Then she saved the file and sent it to Admiral Tae-min with a message. "Sir, you need to hear this one." Taemin listened to the hospital transmission in his private quarters. He listened to it 3 times. Then he made a call to Earth. The fleet command meeting lasted 20 minutes. Taemin explained the situation. He showed them the numbers. 3,000 Kravik ships versus 500 human ships. The math was clear. This was probably suicide. "The council won't act," he said. "But we can. Those people asked for help. Are we going to pretend we didn't hear them?" "Admiral," one of the commanders said, "we could lose half the fleet." "I know," Taemin said, "but what's the point of having a fleet if we won't use it to save innocent lives?" There was a long pause. Then the fleet admiral spoke. "You have authorization, Taemin. Bring our people home, and bring as many Velrians as you can." "Yes, sir," Taemin said. "We'll do our best." "I know you will," the fleet admiral said. "That's why you're going. Earth doesn't abandon people who cry for help. We're not like them." The call ended. Taemin activated the ship-wide intercom. "All hands! This is the Admiral. We have received a distress call from the Velrian homeworld. They are under attack by the Kravik Dominion. The Galactic Council has refused to help them. We will not refuse. All ships in the fleet are to prepare for immediate departure. We launch in 2 hours." He paused, then added, "I won't lie to you. The odds are bad. We're outnumbered 6-1. A lot of us might not come home, but someone asked for help, and we're going to answer. That's what humans do. Park out." In the fighter bay, Captain Hyun-Sik Kang heard the announcement and smiled. He was 32 years old and had been flying combat missions since he was 20. He loved flying. He loved fighting. But most of all, he loved having a good reason to do both. "Hey, Cap," one of his pilots called out. 6-1 odds, that's pretty bad." "Yeah," Hyun-Sik said. "But they're not expecting us. They think we'll fight like the other council races. Polite, careful, safe." "And we're not going to do that?" Hyun-Sik checked his weapon systems. "No, we're going to fly straight down their throats and show them what Deathworlders can do." Across the fleet, 500 ships prepared for battle. Crews checked weapons. Engineers pushed engines to maximum. Marines loaded their gear. Everyone knew the odds. Nobody hesitated. Dr. Ji-won received one last transmission from Velria before the fleet jumped to slipstream. It was very short, just 4 words. "Is anyone out there?" She saved the recording and sent a reply. She didn't know if it would get through. She didn't know if anyone was still alive to receive it. The message said, "Yes, we're coming. Hold on." 2 hours later, 500 human warships dropped into slipstream and disappeared. They were heading to a fight they would probably lose. They were going anyway, because someone had asked for help, and humans always answered. The human fleet came out of slipstream at the edge of the Velrian system. What they saw made even experienced officers go quiet. The planet was surrounded by fire. Hundreds of destroyed ships floated in orbit. Some were burning. Some were just clouds of metal and bodies. Between the debris, 1,200 Kravik warships sat in perfect formation. They looked like giant black insects with red lights running along their hulls. On the surface of Velria, cities were burning. The scanners showed millions of life signs, but those numbers were dropping every minute. "Sir," Commander Mira Song said from the tactical station. She was young for her rank, only 28, but she was the best tactical officer in the fleet. "We count exactly 1,200 enemy ships. All of them are in attack formation around the planet." Admiral Tae-min stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and looked at the display. His face showed nothing. "Any Velrian ships left?" "No, sir. They destroyed the entire defense fleet. The Velrians never had a chance." Tae-min nodded slowly. "Open a channel to the fleet. All ships." "Channel open, sir." "This is Admiral Park to all ships. You see what we're up against. The Velrians are still alive down there. Some of them anyway. We're here to make sure they stay that way." Battle Plan Echo 7. Fighter wings launch in 2 minutes. All ships will advance at full speed. We don't stop until we break their formation or we're all dead. Understood? All across the fleet, commanders answered. "Understood, sir." The Kravik fleet had already detected them. A transmission came through on all channels. The voice was deep and rough. Human vessels. This is Admiral Vekran of the Kravik Dominion. Your reputation reaches far, Deathworlders, but you are outnumbered more than 2 to 1. Surrender now. We will make your death quick. Mira looked at Tae-min. Sir? Open a channel back, Tae-min said. Channel open. Tae-min spoke clearly. Admiral Vekran, we received a distress call. We don't know how to surrender. We only know how to answer. All ships, advance. The human fleet didn't slow down. They accelerated. On the Kravik flagship, Admiral Vekran watched his screens in confusion. They're charging? All of them. Yes, Admiral, his tactical officer said. They're not slowing down at all. Foolish, Vekran said. They will die even faster this way. All ships prepare to engage at maximum range. The Kraviks had fought 40 different species in the past century. They knew how galactic warfare worked. Ships stayed far apart. They fired at long range. Shields absorbed the damage. Battles took weeks or months. It was scientific. It was predictable. The humans didn't fight that way. Captain Hyun-sik Kang launched from the Indomitable, leading a wave of 2,000 strike fighters. They were small and fast. Each one had a pilot, minimal shields, and enough weapons to destroy a ship 10 times its size. All wings, this is Kang, stay tight. We're going right through their center. Don't stop for anything. The fighters accelerated to speeds that would have killed most aliens from the G-forces alone. Hyun-sik felt his body press back into his seat. His vision started to blur at the edges. He smiled. Here we go. The fighters hit the Kravik formation like bullets. They didn't slow down. They didn't dodge carefully. They flew straight between the massive warships at impossible speeds, firing missiles and cannon rounds as they passed. The Kraviks tried to shoot them down, but their weapons were designed for slow, predictable targets. The human fighters moved too fast. By the time the Kravik guns locked on, the fighters were already gone. I got one! A pilot shouted over the radio. 2 here! Another called out. Stay focused, Hyun-sik said. He locked onto a Kravik cruiser and fired 4 missiles. All 4 hit. The cruiser's shields flashed and died. The ship began to break apart. 1 more dead! Keep moving! Behind the fighters, the main fleet arrived. The Kraviks expected them to stop and engage at a safe distance. They didn't. The human ships punched through the Kravik lines at full speed. They launched missiles at point-blank range. They fired mass-driver rounds that went straight through shields. Some ships even rammed Kravik vessels that got in their way. This is insane! The Kravik tactical officer shouted. They're not following any standard combat doctrine. Return fire, Vekran ordered. Destroy them! But the Kraviks were confused. Their ships were designed for careful, long-range combat. The humans were fighting at knife-fighting distance. It was chaos. It was violent. It was exactly where humans were most dangerous. Lieutenant Dae Jung-han led a team of Marines in a breach pod. It was a small armored capsule with 20 soldiers inside and engines powerful enough to slam it into an enemy ship's hull. 30 seconds to impact, the pilot called out. Dae-jung checked his rifle. Around him, his Marines did the same. They were about to do something that no other species in the galaxy would even consider. They were going to board an enemy ship during a battle, while both ships were moving at combat speed. Remember, Dae-jung said, fast and mean. We hit them before they know we're there. Take out their bridge crew and their engines. Then we move to the next ship. Yes, sir, the Marines answered. The pod hit the Kravik ship with enough force to punch through the armored hull. The Marines poured out into the corridor. The Kraviks inside stared at them in shock. They didn't understand. How did enemies get inside their ship? Dae-jung shot the first one. Move! 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 The Marines moved through the ship like they had practiced 1,000 times. Because they had. Humans had been boarding enemy ships since the age of wooden boats and swords. It was in their blood. Dr. Ji-won listened to the Velrian transmissions from her station. The broadcasts from the surface had changed. The fear was still there, but something else had joined it. hope. "The sky is burning," a Velrian voice said. "But those ships, those are human ships. The humans came. The Deathworlders actually came for us." Another voice joined in. "They're attacking the Kraviks! Look at them! They're not afraid at all." Jiwan felt tears on her face. She quickly wiped them away and kept working. In 30 minutes of fighting, the humans destroyed 200 Kravik ships. They lost 47 of their own. The Kraviks had never experienced anything like this. In all their wars, they had never fought anyone who attacked like this, who moved like this, who refused to be afraid. Admiral Vekrin stared at his tactical display. It was covered in red warning symbols. Ships destroyed, ships damaged, ships requesting orders. "What are they?" he whispered. His tactical officer didn't have an answer. On the surface of Velria, civilians huddled in basements and shelters. They listened to the sounds of battle in the sky above them. Some of them had given up hope days ago. They had accepted that they would die. Now they heard human voices on the emergency channels. "This is Dropship 7 to any Velrian civilians. We're coming down to get you. Mark your positions with any light you have. We'll find you." A Velrian mother held her 3 children close. They were hungry and scared. The Kraviks had destroyed their home. They had been hiding in the ruins for 2 days. She found a small flashlight and went outside. She pointed it at the sky and waved it back and forth. 5 minutes later, a human dropship landed in the street. The door opened. A human soldier stepped out. He looked tired and his armor was scorched, but he smiled at her. "Ma'am," he said in careful Velrian, "let's get you and your kids somewhere safe." The mother started crying. Her children held on to her. The soldier waved them forward. "Come on. We don't have much time. There are more people to pick up." They climbed aboard the dropship. Inside were 20 other Velrian civilians. All of them stared at the humans with wide eyes. The dropship lifted off. Through the windows, they could see the battle in orbit. Explosions lit up the sky. Ships fell like burning stars. But the human ships kept fighting. They didn't run. They didn't hide. They had come to save people they had never met. And they were winning. The battle had been going for 3 hours. The human fleet was starting to take serious damage. But they weren't stopping. Na-Young Kim stood in the engine room of the Indomitable. She was the chief engineer, and right now her engines were running at 140% capacity. That should have been impossible. The reactor should have melted. The coolant systems should have failed. "Chief!" one of her engineers shouted. "Temperature is critical. We need to reduce power." "No!" Na-Young shouted back. She was covered in grease and sweat. "We reduce power, we slow down. We slow down. We die. Keep the coolant flowing." She pulled up a diagnostic screen. Everything was red. Every warning light was blinking. The engines were screaming, but they were still running. "Come on," she whispered to the machines. "Just a little longer. Don't quit on me now." On the bridge, Admiral Tae-min watched the battle unfold. The tactical display showed human ships dancing between Kravik vessels. They moved fast and hit hard. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't clean, but it was working. "Sir," Mira said, "Kravik reinforcements just jumped in. 800 ships." Tae-min didn't blink. "Total enemy count?" 2,000 ships, sir. "We're down to 463 functional vessels." The math was getting worse. But Tae-min had fought impossible battles before. On Earth, humans had been fighting impossible battles since the beginning. "All ships, continue the attack. Target their command cluster. If we can break their leadership, the rest will fall apart." Sung-Ho Bae sat at the helm of the destroyer Relentless. He was 24 years old and had been flying ships since he was 16. Right now, he was doing something that would have gotten him court-martialed in peacetime. He was flying his destroyer through a debris field at full combat speed. Chunks of destroyed ships flew past his hull. Some of them hit. His shields flashed. Alarms screamed. He ignored all of it. "Sir!" his co-pilot shouted. "We need to slow down!" "Can't!" Sung-Ho shouted back. "We slow down! That Kravik battleship gets a lock on us!" He yanked the controls hard left. The Relentless spun through a gap barely twice its size. His crew was thrown against their restraints. The G-forces were crushing, but they made it through. "Firing solution on that battleship," the weapons officer called. "Fire everything!" Sung-Ho ordered. The Relentless launched every missile it had left. 16 missiles flew straight and true. The Kravik battleship tried to dodge. It was too slow. All 16 missiles hit. The battleship exploded in a ball of white fire. "Yes!" the weapons officer shouted. "Don't celebrate yet," Sung-Ho said. "Find me another target." Lieutenant Dae-jung and his Marines were inside their third Kravik ship. They had taken the first ship's bridge. They had destroyed the second ship's engines. Now they were fighting room by room through a Kravik cruiser. The Kraviks were bigger than humans. They were stronger. They had better armor and bigger guns. But they weren't used to close combat. They didn't train for it. Their entire military doctrine was based on ship-to-ship fighting. Humans had been fighting hand-to-hand since before recorded history. Dae-jung kicked open a door. 3 Kraviks were inside. They raised their weapons. Dae-jung was faster. He shot all 3 before they could fire. "Clear!" he called. His Marines poured in behind him. They moved like water, flowing around obstacles, covering each other, never stopping. "Bridge is 2 decks up," his scanner operator said. "Then let's go up," Dae-jung said. They found a vertical shaft and started climbing. It was designed for Kraviks, who were taller than humans. Dae-jung's Marines had to jump to reach the handholds. They did it anyway. At the top of the shaft, Dae-jung pulled himself into a corridor. 5 Kraviks were waiting. They opened fire. Dae-jung threw himself flat. Bullets screamed over his head. His Marines came up behind him and returned fire. It was chaos. It was loud. It was terrifying. It was where humans thrived. 3 minutes later, all 5 Kraviks were down. Dae-jung had taken a bullet to his shoulder. He ignored it. "Keep moving. We're almost there." Sergeant Sun Hee-yoon was floating in space. Her ship had been destroyed an hour ago. She had managed to get into a survival suit before the hull breached. Now she was drifting through the battle with a sniper rifle and 15 rounds. Most people would have panicked. Sun Hee was calm. She spotted a Kravik command ship through the debris. She could see its bridge through the armor glass. Inside, she could see officers giving orders. Sun Hee braced her rifle against a piece of floating metal. She took aim. In space, there was no wind, no gravity, no air resistance. It was actually easier than shooting on Earth. She fired. The bullet traveled 3 kilometers in perfect silence. It punched through the armor glass of the Kravik bridge. It hit a Kravik officer in the head. Chaos erupted inside the bridge. Officers scattered. Some thought they were under attack from another ship. They didn't think to look for a single human floating in the debris. Sun Hee fired again, another officer down. She had 13 rounds left. She intended to use all of them. Jin Woo-ro was a medic with the Marine boarding teams. Right now, he was treating a wounded Kravik soldier. The Kravik had been shot in the leg during the fighting. He was bleeding badly. "Why are you helping me?" the Kravik asked. His voice was full of pain and confusion. "I'm your enemy." Jin Woo wrapped a bandage around the wound. "You're injured. That's all I need to know." "But we were trying to kill you." "Yeah," Jin Woo said, "and you failed. Now hold still. This is going to hurt." He injected the Kravik with medicine. The alien's eyes went wide. Then the pain started to fade. "You saved me?" "That's my job," Jin Woo said. "Now stay here and don't do anything stupid." He moved to the next wounded soldier. This one was human, a young Marine with burns across her face. "Hey, Doc," she said weakly. "Am I going to make it?" "You're going to be fine," Jin Woo said. He didn't know if that was true, but he said it anyway. "Just stay with me." Back on the Indomitable, Dr. Jiwan was monitoring all channels. She heard something that made her heart stop. All ships, this is Admiral Vekrin. Kravik reinforcements are arriving. All units, push forward. We will crush these Deathworlders once and for all. She checked her screens. He was right. More Kravik ships were coming out of Slipstream, hundreds of them. She opened a channel to Admiral Tae-min. Sir, more enemy ships inbound. The odds just got worse. Tae-min looked at the tactical display. He saw the new ships appearing. He saw his own fleet, battered and bleeding, but still fighting. They think we'll break, he said quietly. They think we'll see those numbers and run away. Sir? They don't understand, Ji-won. We're not here to win. We're here because people asked for help. Numbers don't matter. Math doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that we don't quit. He opened a fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Admiral Park. I know you see the reinforcements. I know the odds look bad. But I need you to remember something. Those people down on that planet are counting on us. They've been listening to their children die for days. They gave up hope. Then they saw our ships. They believed again. We're not going to take that away from them. We're going to keep fighting, every single one of us, until we win or until we can't fight anymore. Am I clear? All across the fleet, tired voices answered. Clear, sir. Good, Tae-min said. All ships, full assault. Target their command cluster. If we're going to do this, we're going all the way. The human fleet charged forward into the teeth of 2,000 enemy ships. They were outnumbered. They were damaged. They were running out of ammunition and fuel and time. But they weren't running away. On Velria, civilians watched the sky. They saw human ships burning. They saw explosions. They saw impossible bravery. A Velrian child asked her mother, "Why are they fighting so hard for us?" Her mother held her close. "Because they're humans, sweetheart. They heard us crying. And they came." In space, the battle raged on. The humans kept fighting. They always did. The human fleet was dying. Captain Jae-hoon. Oh watched his tactical display with calm eyes. His ship, the missile cruiser Thunderhead, had taken 6 direct hits. Half his crew was dead. His engines were failing. His weapons were almost empty. "Sir," his first officer said, "we need to evacuate. The reactor is going critical." Jae-hoon looked at the display. There was a Kravik battle cruiser 2 kilometers away. It was launching fighters to attack the human dropships evacuating Velrian civilians. "No," Jae-hoon said. "We're not done yet." "Sir, the ship is—" "I know what the ship is," Jae-hoon said quietly. "Give me everything left in the missile tubes. Target that battle cruiser." His weapons officer understood immediately. "Sir, that's our last—" "Do it." The Thunderhead launched its final volley of missiles. All 24 of them flew straight at the Kravik battlecruiser. Most of them hit. The battlecruiser's shields died. Its hull cracked open. But it wasn't enough. The battlecruiser was still launching fighters. "Helm!" Jae-hoon said. "Full speed!" "Ram them!" The bridge went silent. Then the helmsman nodded. "Yes, sir." The Thunderhead turned and accelerated. Its dying engines screamed. The crew held on to their stations. Some of them were crying. All of them stayed. "It's been an honor serving with you all," Jae-hoon said. The Thunderhead hit the Kravik battlecruiser at full speed. Both ships exploded in a fireball that could be seen from the planet's surface. The Velrian civilians in the dropships watched. They had been saved by a ship that no longer existed, by a captain they would never meet. On the surface of Velria, Corporal Bo-Ra Shin was having a very bad day. She was a combat medic, and she was supposed to be evacuating wounded civilians. Instead, she was fighting. The hospital she was defending had 300 Velrian civilians inside. Most of them were children. The Kravik ground forces had been trying to take it for 6 hours. Bo-Ra and 12 Marines were all that stood in their way. "Here they come again!" one of the Marines shouted. Bo-Ra raised her rifle. Her hands were steady despite the fear. She had been a medic for 4 years. She had saved hundreds of lives. Today she was taking them. The Kraviks charged. There were 50 of them. Big, armored, heavily armed. They thought 13 humans would break and run. They were wrong. Bora shot the first one in the head. The Marines opened fire from their positions. Bullets filled the street. The Kraviks had better armor, but the Marines had better aim. 20 Kraviks fell in the first minute. The rest took cover. "Reloading!" Bora called out. A Marine next to her was hit. He went down hard. Bora dropped her rifle and grabbed her medical kit. "Stay with me," she said as she worked. The Marine had taken a bullet to the chest. It had gone through his armor. Blood was everywhere. Bora's hands moved automatically. Pressure on the wound. Seal the hole. Inject medicine. Keep him breathing. The Kraviks attacked again while she worked. The other Marines held them back. Barely. "Bora!" someone shouted. "We can't hold much longer." "Just a few more seconds," she said. She finished sealing the wound. The Marine would live. Probably. She picked up her rifle again and went back to fighting. Commander Yun Seok Chai sat in the intelligence center of the Indomitable. He had been studying Kravik tactics for hours. Now he thought he understood them. "They use a central battle network," he said to Admiral Tae-min over the comm. "Every ship reports to their command cluster. If we can disrupt that network, they'll lose coordination," Tae-min finished. "Can you do it? Give me 5 minutes." Yun-seok pulled up the Kravik communications network. It was well protected. But Kravik technology was designed to fight other Kravik technology. It wasn't designed to fight human hackers. Humans had been breaking into each other's systems since the invention of computers. They were very good at it. Yun-seok's fingers flew across his keyboard. He found a weak point in the network. He slipped in a virus. Then he waited. 3 minutes later, Kravik ships across the battle space started getting false data. Ships that were destroyed appeared functional. Functional ships appeared destroyed. Target coordinates were wrong. Communications were scrambled. The Kravik fleet began to fall apart. On the Kravik flagship, Admiral Vekrin watched his perfect formation dissolve into chaos. "What's happening?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir. Our network is compromised. Fix it." "We're trying, sir, but—" An explosion rocked the ship. A human boarding pod had just punched through the hull. Lieutenant Dae-jung and his Marines poured out of the pod. They were inside the flagship. Dae-jung's shoulder still hurt from the bullet wound, but he ignored it. "Bridge is 3 decks up," he said. "Let's move." They fought their way through corridor after corridor. The Kraviks threw everything at them. It didn't matter. The Marines had momentum. They had rage. They had 13 human soldiers who had been fighting for 7 hours straight and refused to stop. They reached the bridge. Dae-jung kicked the door open. Admiral Vekrin stood in the center of the room, surrounded by his officers. "Surrender," Dae-jung said. "Never!" Vekrin raised his weapon. Dae-jung was faster. He shot the weapon out of Vekrin's hand. "I said surrender. This is over." Vekrin stared at him. "How? How are you still fighting? You've lost half your fleet. Your ships are destroyed. You're bleeding. You should have broken hours ago." "You want to know why we're still fighting?" Dae-jung said. "Because someone asked for help. And where we come from, that means something." Before Vekrin could respond, Dae-jung's Marines had secured the bridge. They began shutting down the flagship's systems. "This is Lieutenant Han to Admiral Park. We have control of the enemy flagship." On the Indomitable, Tae-min allowed himself a small smile. "Good work." "Lieutenant, now blow it up." "Sir?" "The other Kravik ships see their flagship exploding. They'll lose their nerve. Plant charges and get out of there." "Yes, sir." 5 minutes later, the Kravik flagship exploded. The blast was enormous. Every ship in the battle saw it. The Kravik fleet panicked. Without their admiral, without their network, without their perfect formation. They didn't know what to do. They had never fought an enemy like this. An enemy that didn't follow rules, that didn't care about odds. that refused to quit even when defeat was certain. The Kraviks did something they had never done before in their entire history of conquest. They ran. Ship after ship jumped to slipstream and fled. Some tried to organize a retreat. Most just ran in whatever direction they could. Within minutes, the Kravik fleet was gone. The battle was over. Admiral Tamin sat in his command chair and closed his eyes. Around him, his crew was cheering. On every human ship, people were celebrating. "Damage report," Tamin said quietly. Mira's voice was subdued. 223 ships destroyed, sir. 48,000 dead, 90,000 wounded. Every remaining ship has damage. 48,000. Tamin thought about that number. 48,000 people who had families, who had dreams, who had futures. All gone. "And the Velrians?" he asked. "We evacuated 250,000 civilians, sir. The Kravik ground forces are retreating. The planet is secure." Tamin opened his eyes. 250,000 lives saved, at the cost of 48,000 lost. The math was terrible, but it was better than zero. "Send a message to the fleet," he said. "Well done. All ships, begin recovery operations. Let's bring our people home." On Velria, the Velrian people emerged from their shelters. They looked up at the sky. The Kravik ships were gone. The human ships remained, damaged but victorious. They had been saved. By strangers. By aliens. By Deathworlders who had traveled across the galaxy because someone had cried for help. The celebration would come later. First came the tears. 3 days after the battle, the Galactic Council arrived at Velria. They came with relief ships, medical supplies, and apologies. They were 3 days too late. Representative Insu Park met them at the orbital station. He was Ambassador Haye Jin's assistant, and he was very angry. "Where were you?" he asked the council delegation. "When the distress calls were being sent, when people were dying. Where were you?" The Thorian ambassador shifted uncomfortably. "We were following proper procedure. Military action requires..." "Procedure," Insu said. The word tasted bitter. 48,000 humans died here. They died following their procedure. You want to know what that procedure is? It's simple. Someone asks for help. We answer. You cannot simply... "We just did," Insu said. "And we'll do it again. Every time. Because that's what it means to be human." He turned and walked away. The council delegation stood in silence. On the surface of Velria, a memorial service was being held. The Velrians had prepared a field near their capital city. 48,000 markers had been placed in neat rows. Each one had a name, a human name. Admiral Tamin stood at the front of the gathering. His arm was in a sling. The Indomitable had taken a direct hit to the bridge 3 hours into the battle. Tamin had been wounded. He had refused to leave his post. Behind him stood the survivors of the human fleet. They were bandaged and tired. Some were on crutches. Some were in wheelchairs. All of them were here. In front of him stood 250,000 Velrian civilians, the ones who had been saved. They were silent. Many of them were crying. "We gather here," Tamin said quietly, "to remember those who fell, to honor their sacrifice, to say their names one last time." Dr. Jiwan stepped forward. She had a list, 48,000 names long. She began to read. Captain Jaehoon Oh, a Velrian family, stepped forward. They placed flowers at a marker. Sergeant Won-shik Lee, another family, stepped forward. Private Yoonji Park. More flowers. The reading took 6 hours. Every single name was spoken. Every single name was honored. Velrian families placed flowers at each marker. These humans had died for them. The least they could do was remember their names. When the last name was read, the field was covered in flowers. Tamin spoke again. These people came from a world that tried very hard to kill them. Earth is not a kind planet. It has storms that can destroy cities. animals that can tear us apart, diseases that can wipe us out. For millions of years, Earth tested us. It made us strong. It made us stubborn. It made us survivors. He paused and looked at the Velrian crowd. But it also made us something else. It made us understand what it means to need help. Every human alive is descended from someone who helped a stranger, someone who shared food when they had little, someone who protected the weak when it was dangerous. That's what it means to be human. We help, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. A Velrian elder stepped forward. Her name was Telmara. She was the leader of the Velrian government. What was left of it, anyway. "Why?" she asked. Her voice was shaking. "Why did you sacrifice so much for us? We are nothing to you. Just another species in a galaxy full of species." Taman looked at her. "You asked for help. That's all we needed to know." "But the cost." "We've been where you are," Taman said. "Humans almost went extinct several times in our history. Ice ages, supervolcanoes, wars, diseases. We survived because we helped each other. Because when someone fell, someone else picked them up. If we heard someone crying for help and did nothing, we wouldn't be human anymore. We'd be something else. Something less." Telmara bowed her head. Tears fell from her large eyes. "We will never forget this. Never. Your names will be taught to our children. Your sacrifice will be remembered for as long as the Velrian people exist." Sergeant Sun Hee-yoon sat in a hospital bed. She had been recovered from space after floating for 11 hours. She was fine, just cold and tired. 3 Velrian children came to visit her. They were orphans. The Kraviks had killed their parents. Sun Hee had helped evacuate them. "Hello," the oldest one said shyly. She was holding something. "Hey kids," Sun Hee said. "What's that?" "We made you something." The child held out a drawing. It showed a human ship in the sky. Stars all around it. At the bottom, in careful letters, it said, "Thank you." Sun Hee took the drawing. She looked at it for a long time. Then she smiled. "This is beautiful. Thank you." "Our parents are gone," the child said. "But you saved us." "Why?" Sun Hee had been asked that question a lot in the past 3 days. She gave the same answer she always did. "Because you needed saving. That's enough." Jin Woo the medic was working in a Velrian hospital. He was training Velrian doctors in human medical techniques. They were eager to learn. "Your medicine is so advanced," one of the Velrian doctors said, "but also so aggressive. You use strong drugs. You cut into the body. You take risks." "We learned medicine on a death world," Jin Woo said. "Our bodies are tough. Our medicine has to be tough too. But the principle is the same. We do whatever it takes to keep people alive." "Even enemies?" the doctor asked. "I heard you treated wounded Kraviks." "Injured people aren't enemies," Jin Woo said. "They're just injured. My job is to fix them." The Velrian doctor thought about that. "You are a strange species, humans. You fight like demons, but you care like angels." Jin Woo laughed. "We're just people, trying to do the right thing." The Galactic Council called a special session 1 week after the battle. They wanted to give humanity awards, medals, official thanks. Ambassador Hye-jin attended. When they offered her the medals, she refused. "Keep them," she said. "We didn't do this for awards, we did it because it was right." "But surely—" "No," Hye-jin said firmly. "If you want to thank us, do something useful. Next time someone sends a distress call, don't debate for 3 days. Act. Save lives. That's the only thanks we want." The council chamber was silent. "And understand this," Hye-jin continued. "What happened at Velria will happen again. Every time we hear a distress call, we will answer. Every time. We're not asking your permission. We're telling you how it's going to be. If that's a problem for the council, then maybe Earth doesn't belong in the council." "Ambassador Lee," the chairman said carefully. You cannot simply— We just did, He-Jin said. And we'll do it again, because that's what humans do. Word spread across the galaxy. The Deathworlders had fought an impossible battle. They had lost thousands of ships and tens of thousands of lives. But they had won. More importantly, they had shown the galaxy something it had forgotten. That some things were worth fighting for. That some things were worth dying for. That hearing someone cry for help and doing nothing was worse than death. 2 weeks after the battle, Captain Hyun-sik was back in his fighter. The ship had been repaired. So had he. Mostly. He was running patrol around Velria when his radio crackled. This is the transport ship Morning Light. We're under attack by pirates. Our engines are damaged. We need help. Please, anyone. Hyun-sik checked his navigation. The ship was 3 weeks away. He opened a channel to the Indomitable. Admiral, we've got another distress call. On the bridge, Admiral Tae-min looked at the tactical display. The fleet was still being repaired. Half the ships weren't ready for combat. The crews were exhausted. They had just fought the hardest battle in human history. He smiled. All ships, prepare for departure. Plot a course to the Morning Light's position. Commander Mi-Ra looked at him. Sir, we're still damaged. We're not ready for another fight. We're never ready, Tae-min said. But we go anyway. That's what we do. The human fleet began to move. Damaged ships with tired crews heading toward another crisis, another fight, another chance to help. From the surface of Velria, the Velrian people watched the human ships leave. Some of them cried. They understood. The humans couldn't stay. There were other people out there who needed help, but they would remember. They would always remember. The day the Deathworlders heard them crying and answered with fire.